the mailman came and he brought us some goodies. Let's take a look at a couple of brand new MAFEX Spider-Man figures. Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics, history, and action figures. My wife and I were about to head out of town for a week, but right before we left, I got these brand new MAFEX Spider-Man 2099 and the Tobey Maguire figure from No Way Home. So I figured we ought to open them up, review them, take a look, and then we're going to head off on vacation for a week. Let's see what we got. Okay, this is going to be super fun. I filmed this the other day, and I lost the audio to this segment. So I still have the footage, so I'm going to sit here and try and talk about the package and talk about what I saw. Obviously, this is the Spider-Man 2099 figure. I really love these window box packages because they look like a comic book. You know, you can see the stuff that's inside. It's got great art, particularly on the side. You know, if you are an in-box collector, these things fit nicely on your shelf, and you can have this great display with the logo and a really super good photo of it. Flip it over to the other side, and it's different. You know, you see the number on there, the MAFEX 239. You've got, you know, different looks, a different photo. But probably the thing that I love about this the most is that it really kind of captures the look of a comic book, particularly with that corner box. And, you know, as a kid of the 80s, I love a corner box. And this actually, you know, I probably would have switched the 6-inch and the 239, would have put those in different places. But that corner box art is done by Rick Leonardi, who was the co-creator, the artistic creator of Spidey 2099. Peter David was the writer, and Rick Leonardi was the artist. I've had a great opportunity to meet Mr. Leonardi a couple of times at Heroes Con. You can see that art was inked by Al Williamson, another terrific longtime Marvel artist. So it's really cool that they went with the original creator for the box art. That's something that means a ton to me in this packaging. So overall, I think it's like a really strong package. You can kind of see how the web wings are going to work. And in the package, you can see sort of how different those web wings are. Now, on the back, you get more terrific artwork of the figure in motion. You get a look at all of the different things, the three heads, the three different designs for these web wings, which I think is going to be a really interesting look when we get this thing out of the package, which should be happening now. Again, I'm watching me talk about this and trying to make up what I was saying at the time, but I honestly think I've come pretty close. The sad thing is, I'm going to have to do it all over again when we get to the next figure. So let's go. Okay, so pretty simple. Easy for me to say, right? God, this box is tight. Pretty simple to take out of the package. And much like we see with a lot of the import figures or even the Mezcos, it's multiple levels of trays in here. So the bottom tray has all of our different web shooter attachments, and those look like they're a little bit darker than what we've gotten with some of the other Peter Parkers. And then here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of hands and an extra set of feet that have magnets on them. So right at the bottom, you can see you've got some splayed out hands with magnets, and there are an extra pair of feet with magnets. So that's pretty cool. This is just the standard disclaimer stuff that comes in there. The middle tray, sometimes these get stuck together too. No tape on this though. It just kind of, just have to loosen it up, and it, actually, there's not a middle tray. What I'm feeling is the stand that is taped to the bottom. So this is the real stuff, guys. This is what it actually, see, look at that. All right. See how much fun that is? See how much fun unboxing these things are? This is the great MAFEX stand. These things really are pretty awesome. They've got multiple different sizes. They come really tight. We're going to get that out and play with it in a little bit. But here's the figure itself. So here's Spidey 2099. We've got a couple extra heads. And then we have these different wing effects on the back that I'm actually really excited to take a look at. So let's just get the basic figure out and take a look at it. Okay, so first impression is fine. You know, it's okay. It feels like it's the exact same body that we've seen on our other Spider-Man figures, certainly the same body that we saw on the comic-based Spider-Man figures. The hip The pelvis area is still a little bit large. I will say, I think that these fists are bigger. Hopefully, the other hand attachments are bigger. That's one of my biggest complaints of the Mafex Spider-Man. They're almost perfect, but the hands just always are like really small. Where I have to admit that I'm pretty disappointed right off of the bat is with the color of this thing. This blue is, like, really flat. I mean, it doesn't have any kind of pop whatsoever. It doesn't have any metallic to it. It's a very grayish blue, and it looks exactly on the screen like what it looks like in person. It's just really, really dark, and unfortunately, the red doesn't stand out much against it, and it may be that it needs maybe another layer of paint. I don't think I can see the blue coming through it, but it definitely doesn't have the kind of pop that you would expect, particularly when you're talking about, the price point of these figures. And that actually brings up a really good point. I pay for all of these. Nothing that you have ever seen on this channel has been given to me by any kind of toy company. So, when I tell you I really like something, it's because I really like it. And, I paid, I probably $100 or more from this. I ordered it through Big Bad Toy Store. So if I tell you I'm not happy with it, it's because I'm not happy with it. But when I tell you that I like something, it's because I really mean it, not because it was given to me by, a company or anything. Now, I like that. I like how the motif of the kind of death's head carries up, and then they did a really nice job with getting the costume accurate all the way down through the hand. So that's a very, very nicely done job. I'm a huge fan of Rick Leonardi's artwork, and what he did creating this mask, I think, is brilliant because it does capture so much of that Spider-Man flavor while still being something completely unique. And that's a lot can be said for Miguel O'Hara with that. In many ways, when he came out as Spider-Man 2099, he was sort of the opposite of Peter Parker. He was incredibly brash as Miguel in his civilian identity. He was confident and cocky and would talk back, whereas Peter Parker in his civilian identity was, pretty much the polar opposite of that. But then when Peter put the mask on, that was where his confidence and everything came out. Whereas with Miguel, he put the mask on and basically became silent. So, just kind of a nice, interesting contrast between the two characters as far as that goes. Now, something that I do really like is this back, the way that the web cape, which is another one of the really distinctive, defining aspects. Okay, we'll get to that now. Um, the back comes off on purpose. So this is the mechanism for changing out the different types of capes, and we'll look at all of them in a minute. But this is the one that came in the package, and it's kind of the simple one, the kind of flying sort of pose. The one that just sort of looks great laid down, but it's on a pivot joint back here, so it not only can kind of spin 360, but it also goes up and down with great range of motion. So that's definitely a plus. We haven't the Marvel Legends Spider-Man 2099s have very fixed plastic capes back there. We did get a wired cloth cape with the Mezco 112 2099. That was pretty nice touch, but this is certainly taking the cake as far as that goes. Before we look at the other capes, let's look a little bit more at the design here. Gorgeous kind of Day of the Dead costume spider, really nicely done. The remainder of the suit, it's all one color, but there are highlights. You can, if you get the lighting on there, you can see that this isn't just one color of plastic. There are highlights that bring out the different textures and layer of the musculature. A little bit of that exists on the head as well. But I do think that the cape is maybe the most interesting aspect of this. Let's switch out and look at some of the other capes and see just what we can come up with that. Okay, so version 2, take the back off, and boy, I sure don't wanna do these stay in? Ooh, wow. Okay, so if you wondered how MAFEX articulation works, that is pegged there, which allows for that huge ball range of motion. Fascinating. I've never taken one of these apart before. And of course, there's a a peg there for the waist. So the second one has split cape. So we'll slide. That goes in nicely. Yeah, really seamless. I don't see anything with that. So this is going to give us a little bit of a broader look, and I think that we can, kind of bring it out a little bit further. So yeah, so that's going to extend beyond his back much more, whereas the first one really kind of tapered down the back. That one is going to give us a look where, yeah, it's definitely more. And of course, you can do, some different things with it. You can have it, kind of part down, part back, part out. Interesting. And of course, both of those are on that same kind of joint. All right, let's see. We've got another one. We'll take this back off. Yeah, no rehearsal on this. This is me opening the box and going through these things for the very first time. So the third one is again a single, but it's even bigger. I might like this one the best. Let's see. All right, we're going to peg him into place. These things are expensive, so you really kind of I don't really want to break it. Oh, but that seals really nicely. Okay, so here I think this one is more similar in size to the Marvel Legends one. I don't know that it really brings that much to the table that the first one didn't bring. You can see it's a little bit wider, a little bit broader, but not a huge difference. Definitely, though, does kind of follow the contour of his shoulder muscles really well. So if you want to have it up in a flying pose, that actually really does work. It doesn't hinder the movement there, but you can definitely see where they did, incorporate the musculature and the movement of the back muscles with that. Those are your latissimus dorsi muscles back there. Nice. Okay, very good. The next ones, there's actually some that peg into the triceps here. You can see there's little holes there. I'm actually going to switch that out. We'll take a look at those together and see how they look. Okay, for real. This I like. So pegged in to the tricep, clear curve as to where they're meant to go so that you can tell which way they go on. And when you have them spread out with his arms back, it really creates a nice look for this web wing behind it. That's so you can do that and you can't see them, but they're there and they're fully spread out. That is a legitimately nice look. Now, if you get him into a position like this, you get maybe a little bit more of that kind of Spidey, that, early Spidey web wing thing. Doesn't quite work as well with the arms not up because you can see they're kind of separated from the body. But when you get the arms back, if the shoulders are back, and particularly if this is up, I think that actually does. It looks really good like that. But that again, that's a little bit limited. There's one more set of these. Let's pull the other set out and see how they work in conjunction. Actually, this is a better example. Here's one of each flavor. So there are two that are thin and two that are thicker. I still don't think it makes that big of a difference. I mean, they still are really kind of more involved with the cape when it's back and with the shoulders back. I don't really know how you're supposed to incorporate this with the arms down. I mean, it's kind of cool that they're there, I guess. Again, this under web pattern has perplexed Spider-Man toy makers since the beginning of time. I don't know that we've ever truly gotten a really well done version of this. Honestly, I think one of the best ones I've ever seen was on the rebranded Captain Action line from the early 2000s. That may be the only one that's ever been done well, but it does, even with the hands down, you can kind of get a sense of them coming together. You definitely want to use the wider back cape so that it does connect better with these, but overall, it's a unique part of Spider-Man 2099. So I'm glad that they, made some serious effort to do something different because this is the same figure that we've gotten just repainted and not even necessarily repainted that well. So, at least they do bring a little bit of something different to the table with that. Let's next go through the different hands and then we'll take a look at the heads. So he came straight out of the package with some classic fighting fists. And you guys tell me if you think I'm right. These look like they're slightly bigger than what we've gotten on MAFEX hands before. And of course, they've got articulation all the way around. You can bend them forward, you can bend them back. And of course, they're on a ball to go around. So you can get all kinds of fighting poses with these. So there's your classic fists. As I switched on the grabbing hands, which are the next set, I am convinced that these are bigger. And the reason why is the peg that you peg these into feels so much more solid. I have broken plenty of wrist pegs on MAFEX figures. In fact, I think I've done it on camera more than once. So these are the grabbers. And of course, you get multiple different web threads and slides right in pretty nicely. These are kind of the thumbs up grabbers, which I think are pretty helpful when you want to get him into poses where he's really kind of directing his web line or swinging around. So I rarely end up using these except for photography, but hey, thumbs up on the grabbers. These are actually a nice fit for the figure, the flat hands. Now, some of you, if this was an Iron Fist figure, would call these like karate chopping hands, and I guess you could use them for some karate chopping, but really they're more flight hands. And no, Spider-Man 2099 cannot fly, but he does use this web cape to like glide. When he's flying around like Nuevo York, the city in which it takes place, there are updrafts, and he's able to kind of use this lightweight kind of cape to sort of catch those drafts and fly around. So for him, these hands actually make more sense than they would on really virtually any other Spider-Man figure out there. I thought that these were just sort of some relaxed hands. So if you just wanted to have him sort of with his hands down by his side, they just look like they're in a natural kind of cupped position. But no, they are way cooler than that, because look, there's one of Miguel's unique powers. See the claws coming out of his fingertips? Really nicely done on both of these. And I'll tell you, you can feel them. They're pretty sharp. So that's another unique set of hands specifically designed for this character. Pretty nice touch. Now, they'll work as just sort of relaxed sea hands, but it's kind of nice to have those claws going on. Okay, I'm falling more in love with this figure as I go. Here are some really extended splayed hands, some great kind of wall crawling hands, but again, specifically, they've got the claws on them. There they are, right there. You can see them. And so here they have fingers fully extended with claws out so that you can get some cool, very cool wall crawling poses with this guy. Another choice splayed variation, this time with the fingers kind of curled in different action features, again with the claws, including claws on the thumb. You can see the thumb claws there. So, I've been somebody who's tried to not tried to defend, but at least, when people were comparing the $50 price of Maximum Spider-Man to a MAFEX figure, I'm like, yeah, but MAFEX cost $100. Like you can agree or disagree whether Maximum Spider-Man should be or shouldn't be $50, but MAFEX cost $100. But it is a little easier to stomach when you're getting 8 distinctive sets of hands like you're getting with this one. Magnet hands always seem kind of awkward because they have to have that cylindrical tube right there in the palm to hold the magnet. I'm not somebody who's ever going to stick a $100 MAFEX figure on my refrigerator. I didn't switch out the feet, but they peg right in same way. I mean, I appreciate the effort and the thought, and it might be cool if you had him, because I don't want just the back of the figure to show, but if you had him sort of with his hands back on the fridge like that and he was in sort of this position, and I could get behind that. And then when you do that too, you're not going to see the magnet in the cylinder. So, maybe that's the best way for it to work. But still, these are probably going back in the package. I don't know that I'm going to use a lot of these. I save my favorites for last. The gripping claw hands. Again, you can see they've got the little spikes coming out of the fingers and the thumb. They're a little more kind of crunched tightly, more action oriented than the others. Unfortunately, my left hand has a little bit of a paint smudge on it. You don't see that much with these import figures. I mean, you can see just how tight this paintwork is. It's usually fairly perfect. So that's a little bit of a minus, but probably only related to mine. But these are the ones that I think really can get some of the most menacing grabbing poses out there, really get some of the kind of the darker aspects of Spidey 2099. Oh, hey, before we look at the heads, I just remembered that Miguel's web shooters come out of the back of his hand, almost like the black suit, the symbiote suit. And so those kind of curled down fingers, those splayed out fingers with the curled down look, those are basically his thwipping hands. So those are the ones that are like the equivalent of Peter's thwippy hands. So the way that the hand kind of curls down with the pinky down, that's meant to represent his web shooters. And we got numerous different accessories that all have kind of different lengths of webs coming out. But that's what those are for. That's another nice touch. I got to give him credit for that. Okay, so head one is the one that comes on the figure in the package, and it's the standard. And honestly, I think it's really gorgeous. The design is immaculate. It's straight out of a Rick Leonardi panel. No one could draw Spider-Man 2099 the way that Rick Leonardi could. The only person that I would even put in his same category is Ryan Stegman, but this is really an incredibly accurate, perfect version of that head. Second head is extremely similar to the first, but has more of a squinty eyed pattern. You can see the areas there between the red are definitely crunched down. There's much more furrow to the brow. You can kind of catch that in the profile shot that it's bent down. You can see the expression on this. You start getting these claws up and you can get a sense of, that more menacing sort of look. So it's not very different, but I definitely like them as symmetrical rather than one eye big, one eye small. That looks more cartoony to me. This looks much more comic accurate, so I like this. And then finally, you get one of my favorite comic looks, and that's the half mask up kind of expression. I think this is really cool. And this one, you actually have to take the neck piece off. This is one unit, whereas with the other heads, you just pop the head off and put it onto the barbell right there at the neck. This one, you have to actually take the entire neck piece off because that little bit of flesh is involved where it shows the mask coming up. Now, this Miguel looks much more like a comic Miguel. Again, that original look from Leonardi. It's not the MCU, the Spider Verse look, and I kind of like that he's kind of grumpy. This isn't Pizza Spidey where he's smiling. This is much more accurate to the character. The folds of the costume where it's like peeled up and then it even kind of bunches up in the back, really nicely done. This is a good looking head sculpt. So, all in all, where are we at with this figure? Well, there's definitely some things that I like. I appreciate the fact that they tried something new with this removable back plate, which allows for multiple different wing effects to be affixed onto his back. You can get some different looks from that. It's a defining characteristic of the character, and the fact that they put some extra effort into it definitely goes a long way. I like the unique hand sculpts. Not only are they bigger so that they look better with the figure than what we've seen with previous MAFEX Spidey, but they're very, very distinctive for the character. The inclusion of the talon grips, the spikes on the fingers is an incredibly nice touch. The web shooting hands, the grabbing hands, even the magnetic hands are definitely, worthy. And eight different sets is pretty good. The detail of the paint apps is really nice. Aside from this one little smear, we've got great looking paint across this figure. But then the negatives, they're there because this is the exact same body that we've gotten for every Spider Man that we've had. Webman, Spidey, Scarlet Spider, Ben Riley Spider Man, the three different versions that we've gotten of Peter Parker Spider Man. And, when you're paying a relatively exorbitant price, I don't have a problem with reuse. I'm not somebody who's ever going to complain about reuse, but quit fussing about Marvel Legend reuse when you're talking about massive reuse here with this. I mean, this is, I guess it's maybe a little bit carved in, but there's a lot of parts here that are just used over again. But truly, the biggest complaint I have, and it's kind of the biggest thing, is it's just so bland. The blue doesn't have any of the metallic sheen that we've come to kind of expect with this futuristic version of Spider-Man. The red just kind of fades into the blue. And yeah, when you get up close, you can see that it's really tight, but from a distance, it kind of blurs together. And I'm afraid if you put this guy up on a Spidey shelf, he's just going to get lost. He just doesn't have enough zip and personality to stand out amongst a crowd or a crowded shelf full of figures. So, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm glad I have it because I just am a completionist and for some reason the dopamine in my brain goes off by getting all of these. But, buyer beware. I'm not sure that this one's $100 figure for what you're getting. Okay, I'm back to the part where I have to make up the audio again because this is the scene where I dropped it. So, hey, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, MAFEX 241. Really good looking figure in a different kind of box. It doesn't have the comic book look. It's more kind of MCU, which allows you to see the different aspects of it a little bit better. Still has, the multiple heads, all the different features, lots of hands. There's the Doomajiggy right there in the middle that zaps the guys in the final scene. You've got the unmasked mask, which should fit in his hands when he's got the Tobey Maguire head. Pretty cool. Same thing on. Oh nope, we're still talking about this. Okay. There's the bottom of the box with a picture. Same thing on the side, where if you want to keep him in the package, it looks really nice from that side. And I guess we're gonna turn it eventually. Mayfix 241, spin it around, dude. There it is. Okay, here's the other side to look at. I actually like this better. I think the Toby looks very sad there, though. There's something kind of sad about him. Doesn't look sad there. We'll talk about that head shortly, but here are all the other aspects to this. Okay, I've done enough. Let's start looking at the figure. All right, let's see if old friendly neighborhood Spider Man fares any better. One thing, I did a better job of getting the package open, that's for sure. All right, so we got the multiple tray format again. Let's see if this will come off. Down at the bottom, this time, okay, I'm not going to do this on camera because I screwed it up last time. Let's just take the trays out and see what happens. Totally glad I did that off camera because they were completely taped together. So the bottom tray has got your magic swirly effect and lots of extra webs. These, unlike what we just saw with 2099, are actually clear. And that's a good look. I could definitely steal these and use them for other Spider-Man figures. But that comes in the bottom tray. While the top tray's got the goodies. You've got the figure itself. You've got two different Toby heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different sets of hands, a magic doohickey, a mask, and some magnet feet. Here we go. Oh man, if you've never played with a Mafex figure, I highly suggest you find your way to one. They are like tight, hard, and smooth all at the same time. You get this incredible range of motion across all of these joints, but it's firm enough to stay. It'll like stick in whatever position you get, but the joints are smooth enough that they just flow. It's obviously a different type of plastic that they're using compared to like Marvel Legends or McFarlane figures. And I mean, it's premium. It feels premium. It's just really, really nice. Now, the figure itself, pretty gorgeous. When we get really up close on this head, you can see the different layers of texture that are going on. Toby's suit had that kind of mesh tech look to it, and it had much more silver lines than there were black. And when you let the light shine on the spider symbol on the chest, you really see the silver highlights coming out. Plus, you can see all of those little kind of tiny square mech bits throughout the entire costume, arms, legs, all of it. So this is completely unique sculpting all the way around. Oh, foot came off because they do. It's one of the things. These things they will kind of they'll do that on you. Good toe bend though. Look at that. Right, 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 right. Wish my toes bent that well. Gorgeous. Now, again, first blush, good looking figure. Something I don't like are these shoulders though. Is this the same shoulder mechanism that we saw with 2099? It looks like it. When we took the back off of 2099, we saw that there was an entire ball, a 360-degree ball in here. But man, it looks so much more obvious, the cut on this suit. Let me grab, he's up here. I don't know. I think it's pretty similar. It just feels like there's a deeper groove in the shoulders right there. It feels like it's a much smoother transition in these shoulders compared to those shoulders. Some of it, I think, is that you can kind of see the back, but I got to admit, I don't like it. And I think it takes away from just the regular profile of the figure. I think that ball inside there is just way too prominent. It actually, gosh, look at that. It actually moves in and out. And maybe it's not as bad, but there's definitely like a shoulder hump here, right across this area that I'm seeing that I just don't love it. Oh, that looks good. Wow. That's that classic Sam Raimi spider on the back. I'm a traditionalist, but if we're gonna go different, that almost Alex Ross looking spider, that's pretty good. They got the little details, the curve of the boots, the line of the back is not flat, it kinda dips down. A really, really accurate version of Toby's suit. All right, let's do the hands. You got your dukes that you put up, and again, I really believe that these are bigger than what we've seen on previous Mafex Spideys before. Put them up. Grabbers. I might call these Fonzies from here on out. Hey. Fully unnecessary pointing fingers. Well, that is, unless Toby starts dancing again, starts doing, the white man overbite, starts, pointing at people out on the dance floor. I guess that's a possible use for these. I am sure that these double finger pointies are some kind of reference to the film. I just don't know what they are. Maybe if you guys know, you can help me out in the comments. But instead, it's like the white man double overbite going on there. Double flip, double touch. Okay, obviously these I recognize, and I kind of like how organic they are with Toby's kind of pinky finger curled up, because not everybody's going to get the full Ditko thwip out of there. Again, you just attach the really cool. I really do like these clear webs. That's a pretty good look. Get that on there. We can go thwip, 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 thwip. Big time thwippers. The first of a couple of pair of underrated casual hands. These have a little bit more motion to them, but still kind of look fairly good. Just sort of sitting down by his side, not too bad. That open hand though does do a good job of holding the magic doohickey. Fits really nicely, and actually because the fingers are more splayed out, it looks organic, like the way that a hand actually would hold something like this. Zzz. These are the more open hands. They are so wide, they really don't hold anything that the figure came with. But again, for kind of a standing there, getting ready to do nothing pose, pretty spot on. Here's the splayed hands, but not really wall crawling hands because they don't have those kind of pressure points on the fingertips that you see with some of the better wall crawling hands, where you can tell that he's pushing his hand up against the wall and that last digit is bent back. These are just pretty flat out, and there's so much webbing going on in this area, and it's all painted and raised. It gets a little muddy looking, but most of the time they're going to be kind of more down this way or out at his side. So, still good looking. Probably, honestly, if you're talking about like typical flying Spidey poses or web swinging poses, this would be the hand that I would use if it's not one holding the webs. And finally, for those of you who put a $100 action figure on your refrigerator, you got these. As I'd mentioned earlier, this head sculpt is really, really nice. I was never the biggest fan of the silver lenses and the incredibly triangular look of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man suit from the first three movies, but I got to admit, they did it exactly right here. This is precisely what it looks like. And when you get Andrew and Toby and Tom all together, you need to be able to tell the differences between them. And this one certainly really does capture the look of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with that very distinctive mask, the silver lines, the kind of inset sort of mesh pattern, and those triangular lenses. It's really well done. Is it just me, or does it feel like Toby's portrait is kind of hard to capture? Honestly, some of the early Toy Biz figures from the early 2000s, the ones that came out way back in the day, which were hand sculpted, these weren't even like real scan technology, maybe did some of the finest jobs of them. But ones that we've seen later, some of the Marvel Legends ones and even some of the other ones, just didn't quite get it. But not here. This is really, really good. I think the sculpting is spot on to capture his features, and then the paint, particularly the paintwork on those eyes and the different kind of blushes of his skin tone are really fantastic. I don't know, man. I can't say enough about this. Toby's chin, which is, look, I'm the one to talk, so let's make sure that we understand the context of this. I am not being critical. But Tobey Maguire doesn't exactly have the strongest chin on earth, and this figure actually gets it. They actually get kind of that under chin that he has, and I mean it just brings out an incredible amount of life in this. This is maybe my favorite part of this figure. I really, really appreciate what they've done here. Paint, sculpt, application, and honesty. That's really good. On the other hand, this is almost so accurate that it's horrifying. I have no idea how I'm going to sleep tonight after looking at this. We can't stare at this too long or it'll start talking to us. It'll start telling us to do bad things. So, let's just appreciate that that's actually really accurate and move on. So, what are our final thoughts on Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man? Well, the pluses are obvious. The attention to detail is spectacular. The sculpted details are there throughout the entire suit. Gorgeous, gorgeous paintwork. Really incredible how the sculpted lines almost go from a black to a silver, depending on the lighting. Of course, the accessories are very good. I mean, nobody really, I think, cares about those portals at this point anymore, but it certainly makes sense to have it added in when this is not a figure from the original trilogy. This is a No Way Home figure, so having the portal associated, does make kind of sense. Wonderful, smooth articulation that's thick and stays in space. Really great. Head sculpt is fantastic. The unmasked Toby head sculpt is damn near perfect. The negatives, it's those shoulders. I just cannot get over this gap. This gap right here. The hump that comes off of his trapezius muscles down is just it's breaking my heart. And I mean, I know that if he's in super Spidey swingy poses, you're not going to see it, but sometimes I just like to have them kind of there, particularly if you had all three of them lined up together. They're kind of all, in a line. And I don't know, that just, there's something about the sculpting of this opening that really is distracting to me. And I hate that. I wish that wasn't the case. So, kind of like with Spidey 2099, there's a lot to love, but there's a couple of things that just make me crazy and keep this from being an absolutely perfect action figure. So what do you guys think? Are these must buys or are these absolute passes? When you're talking about $100 action figure, are you getting enough bang for your buck with these 6-inch scale figures and the accessories that they come with? Or do you think it's a total waste of money when you could get 4 Marvel Legends figures for roughly the same price? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, if you like how we go about this, tell me about it. Let me know. Give the video a like and share it with your friends. And as always, for the best in comics history and action figures, subscribe to Carbon Scoring.